In this episode of Ideas, I talked to Simon Sinek about leadership, his books, and much more. Here's our conversation. All right, today's guest is Simon Sinek. He is the best-selling author of Start With Why, Leaders Eat Last, and Together is Better. He teaches leaders and organizations how to inspire people and has presented his ideas around the world. His TED Talk based on Start With Why is the third most popular TED video of all time. Simon, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I could ease into this conversation, but I'm just going to ask a huge question right off the bat. Listeners want to hear what you think, and I do too. What are the top 2 or 3 traits that leaders need to possess?
You know, this question is so often thrown about in these circles, as you know. And like, what are the main characteristics? You know, vision, charisma, right? At the end of the day, I know some amazing leaders who don't have sort of big Steve Jobsian visions. Mm-hmm. And I also know some amazing leaders who aren't these like crazy charismatic people. They kind of like quiet and walk down a hallway quietly, you know? The one characteristic I'm comfortable saying that all great leaders have is courage. It's very hard to be a leader. It's very hard to speak truth to power. It's very hard to quote unquote do the right thing sometimes when money is at stake or your reputation is at stake or anything like things like this, you know? And it takes tremendous courage to do the right thing. We all know what the right thing is to do.
Right.
We all know that it's the right thing to take care of our people and prioritize people over numbers. And yet very often we bow to the pressures of business and we sacrifice our people to protect the numbers and never the other way around. And I'm not talking about saving the company from bankruptcy. I'm talking about being slightly more profitable than less profitable, you know? Mm-hmm. And everybody knows the right thing to do. And the great leaders, the ones that we admire, the ones that we respect, the ones that we would give our blood, sweat, and tears for, are the ones who possess courage.
I love that. And you also label yourself as an optimist, which we definitely need more optimism in this world, in a world full of pessimism. What is it that keeps you optimistic, and what are some ways that listeners can remain optimistic as well?
Well, I mean, it's like being a little kid, you know. I'm naive and I'm idealistic.
Yeah, sure.
And I think there's something that comes from naivete and idealism, which is I do believe in a vision of a world that is different to ours. I imagine a world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning, inspired to go to work, feel safe when they're there, and return home fulfilled at the end of the day. And whether you're the leader or you're somebody who works within the company, whether you're the top dog or not, doesn't matter. We all want that feeling. You can be in charge and still not feel successful or in control as much as you would like to feel. And so it's my fixation of the world I want to live in, I guess, that keeps me optimistic. Because if I didn't have a vision of where I wanted to go, the only thing I would have to do is count numbers every day. And I think that's where pessimism starts to seep in.
That's so important. And that's a good segue into your book, having a purpose, a reason why you do things. I want to discuss your book, Start With Why, a book that resonated with so many people, myself included. I remember seeing your TED video maybe in 2010, 2011, somewhere around there, on the idea of starting with why. I found it as a reminder that I needed to realign my actions with my purpose. So please go ahead and talk about that book and where it came from.
Yeah, that book was born out of pain. As I'm sure many of your listeners will know, you know, sort of owning your own business and running your own business it's not easy. And there's a reason why over 90% of all small businesses fail in the first 3 years. It's not something that everybody wants the joys of entrepreneurship, but they don't understand that sure, your highs are higher, but your lows are a lot lower too, you know? And I had a small business and I made it through the first 3 years, which was exciting. And I now joined a very elite club in America, you know, where I survived.
Yeah.
And my 4th year in business, the novelty, the excitement, the thrill of owning a business became, you know, I had worn off. Is now a job, right? And I didn't love it anymore. And I was very embarrassed by that fact because superficial standards, my life was good. I made an okay living. I had amazing clients. We did amazing work. I mean, I owned my own business, for heaven's sakes, right? I was living the American dream, except I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel as successful or as in control or as happy. I just didn't feel it as I felt I should have. Because I was embarrassed by that, I kept it to myself. And I was lying, hiding, and faking every day. I was pretending that I was happier, more in control, and more successful than I felt. And so it's a dark place to be, let me tell you. And all my love for what I was doing fell away. And people would give me stupid advice, like, do what you love, like, follow your passion, It's like I'm doing the same thing. I don't love it anymore. Solve that problem for me, And the advice people give is totally unactionable. It's totally useful. Yeah. It's accurate. Yeah. It's just not helpful, you know? And so I came the closest if I wasn't completely depressed. It was really a dark time. And it wasn't until a friend came to me, concerned about my well-being, did that give me the courage to try and find a solution for the feelings that I had. And there was a confluence of events, and the solution I found was this thing called the why, because I learned about the biology of human decision-making. And I learned that, all of our lives, even our own careers, our own businesses, everything functions on these three levels: what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. And I knew what I did. I could tell you what my business was. I could tell you how I did it, how I thought I was better than others, but I couldn't tell you why I was doing it. And I realized I needed to know that answer. And it wasn't until I discovered my why, once I discovered my why, my passion was restored to levels that I'd never experienced prior. And it literally changed my life. And because it was so powerful, I didn't keep it to myself. I shared it with my friends, and my friends started making crazy life changes. They would invite me to share it with their friends, and I would go to someone's apartment and talk about this stuff with them. And it was the most amazing experience. And that journey continues to this day.
That's awesome. And you already mentioned in the beginning, every leader needs to possess courage, and you already talked about how you had courage. Would you say that it was finally confronting your fears? Everyone needs to confront them would be the main step in moving forward with courage?
Courage, I don't think courage is some deep internal thing. I think courage comes from something outside of us, right? I don't think you dig down deep and find the courage,
Okay.
I think courage comes from an outside source, which is my courage was only showed up when a friend came to me and said, I got your back. I care about you. I'm worried about you, right? And so we have courage when we feel that someone loves us, cares about us, and will be there for us no matter what. And so when we're forced to face our fears, it's like if you're a trapeze artist and you're going to try a death-defying act for the very first time, do you think you're going to put out a net or not? Of course you're going to put out, like you would never try the act for the first time without a net, ever.
Right.
So what makes any of us feel that we have the courage to do some death-defying thing, to confront our demons, to confront our fears and insecurities without a net? That's madness.
Yeah.
And so you got to have somebody or people in your life who care about you. And the only way you're going to have people in your life who desperately care about you and will be there for you is if you have committed yourself to caring about others. And so if we commit ourselves to being a good leader, a good boss, a good friend, a good husband, a good wife, then there will be people there to take care of us. But if we expect everybody to be there for us because we're in charge, then good luck to you.
Caring about other people, is that what drives you? Is that your why, is other people, or is there something else?
Everybody's why is something about other people. My why is to inspire people to do what inspires them, so together we can change our world for the better. That is why I do what I do. And I have a vision of the world that is different than the world we live in. It's a world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning, inspired to go to work, feel safe when they're there, and return home fulfilled at the end of the day. And that's the vision I'm working to pursue and advance.
People who are listening to this, where would they start in finding their why, their purpose?
There's multiple ways to do it. There's no one way. We have a course on our website. It's not really a course. I guess it is. We call it the Why Discovery course. People can go to startwithwhy.com, and it's built for individuals and small businesses to find their why. That's what it's designed for. So that's one option. But let me give you another option. I can share with you a fun way to do it. Basically, find the people who you love and find the people who love you, like your best friends. Your wife or your husband doesn't count. Your brothers and sisters don't count. Those relationships are too close. And basically, find those best friends, the people who you could call at 3 o'clock in the morning and they pick up, and vice versa, you pick up the phone for them, and ask them this question: why are we friends? And they're going to look at you like you're crazy, right? They're like, what do you mean, right? Come on. I was listening to this podcast. Just humor me. Like, why are we friends? And then they're going to say, I don't know. And it's not that they don't know. It's that you're asking them to put into words feelings. And feelings exist in the limbic brain that doesn't control language. So it's hard to put our feelings into words, right? So they're going to fumble, and they're going to, look, dude, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And they're going to start describing you. You're like, I don't know. You're funny. You're smart. I can trust you. And you have to play devil's advocate. Good. That's the definition of a friend.
Right.
Why are you so close with me that I know you'd be like, what is it about me that I know you'd be there for me no matter what? And notice I'm not asking the question why, I'm asking the question what, because what's a rational question? You get rational answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to hem and haw, and they're going to keep describing you. You have to play devil's advocate. You can't help them. You can't let anybody else help them. You got to let them sweat. And at some point, they're going to give up and they're going to start describing themselves. Mm-hmm. And then you are going to have goosebumps or well up or have some emotional reaction. Like my friend said to me, look, Simon, I don't know. All I know is that I don't even have to talk to you. I can just be around you and I feel inspired. And I got goosebumps. In other words, what they'll eventually tell you is your value in their life. They'll eventually tell you your why, or at least they'll come be in the ballpark. And you can do it with multiple friends, and they may use different words. They might actually use the same words, but they'll all mean the same thing because that's the value you offer in the world, right? So it's an incredibly powerful and fun thing to do.
That's good. I love that. That's some action steps for listeners. Gives us some homework.
There you go.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. And the Why Discovery course, my team is amazing. They took the actual process that I developed and put it in digital format for small businesses and individuals. And I'm so proud of the work that they did. It's a very good course. I'm very proud of it.
Very cool. I'll make sure to check that out as well. So.
Please.
Now moving on to another great book of yours, Leaders Eat Last. Go ahead and give listeners a glimpse into that book. I found that interesting what you went through. You went over to Afghanistan, correct?
Yeah, correct. I didn't write about that in the book, but that is what happened. I went with the United States Air Force on a trip to Afghanistan, and everything on our trip went wrong, basically. You know, from 10 minutes after we landed on the base, we came under rocket attack. You know, that's how my trip started. And yeah, it was. And it was a very sort of emotional, intense period. And one of the things I became enamored with while I was there was just the level of love and trust that these men and women in uniform have for each other. And, you know, I got to thinking back home, you know, we have colleagues and coworkers. They have brothers and sisters. Mm-hmm. And how come we have colleagues and coworkers and they have brothers and sisters? I want brothers and sisters when I go to work. You know,
yeah,
it's a different level of relationship. And so they trust each other and cooperate in a way that we just don't do it as much in private sector. And so I set out to try and understand where trust and cooperation come from. I originally thought it was the people. I thought they were better people. And then I later learned it's not. It's the environment. That if you get the environment right, trust and cooperation is what results. Remember, trust and cooperation are feelings. Trust is a feeling. You can't order someone to trust you, you know?
Right.
They're feelings. And so I learned that if you get the environment right, trust and cooperation is the natural human reaction to that environment. And if you get the environment wrong, you get cynicism, paranoia, mistrust, and self-interest. And the responsibility of leadership is to set that environment. Get the environment right, you get a trusting, cooperative, loving group of people who are devoted to you and each other, and you're advancing the business and the cause. Get the environment wrong, you get a group of people who care more about themselves, they care more about their financial standing, they care more about their promotion, their careers, they don't care about you or each other, you know? And it's these conditions are all set by the leader. Like we're told as entrepreneurs, pay yourself first. We're always told, pay yourself first. And what I learned is that actually doesn't work. If you prioritize your interests over the lives of other people, in other words, I'm willing to lay people off to protect my salary, right? It actually creates mistrust. It actually fosters an environment of cynicism. But when we are willing to pay ourselves last, when we're willing to commit ourselves to seeing that the people in our organizations can work at their natural best and what we have to do to help them work at their natural best, the powerful impact that has not only in how they feel about themselves, but their willingness to commit to something like like us and our visions. Like, why should somebody arbitrarily help us build our business and our visions and sell our products that we came up with, right? And so the traditional thing we do is we offer them money, right? I'll pay you money if you help me. That's called a transactional relationship. Right? You do work, I give you money. If I get dissatisfied with your work, I'm going to stop paying you and let you go. But then again, if you find that someone else will pay you more, you're going to leave me. Right? And this is the nature of the relationship we set up. It's a transactional relationship. And the reality, what we want real relationships. We want people who get offered more money and say, I don't want to quit because I love it here and I love my boss and I want to help my boss succeed. And I want to help this company succeed. Not for him or not for her, but for me.
Right.
That's a big deal. But the problem is we don't inspire people. We only motivate them. We motivate them with financial rewards, and we forget to inspire them. We forget to offer them the opportunity to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
And, you know, that right there, what I hear from a lot of people is, you know, how do I fix company culture? Is that a huge part of the book, helping people understand more about culture in their own organizations?
That is exactly what the book is about. I mean, the first book, Start With Why, was all about having a sense of purpose, cause, or belief and how to attract the people. And then Leaders Eat Last is like, okay, now that you've got the people, now that you've hired the people, now that you have the team,
right?
What are you gonna do with them,
right?
Right? So how do you create the environment? How do you build a circle of safety? How do you create the environment in which people will lovingly and willingly offer you their blood, sweat, and tears, and help the organization grow and thrive?
You really are taking us on a journey with your books. Both wonderful books. And now I want to talk about your most recent work, Together is Better.
Yeah.
It's a different type of book from you this time around. Tell us about the message we'll find in it and what inspired you to do something so different with this book.
Well, it's such a simple and delightful little book. It looks like a children's book. It's made for adults, but it looks like a children's book. It's fully illustrated. And I wanted to communicate this simple message that by ourselves, we're not very good, but we can achieve our dreams and we can find what we're looking for if we're willing to ask for help and accept it when it's offered. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially in the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah.
We think we have to know all the answers. We think we have to always be right. We think we have to look like we're in charge. And at the end of the day, it increases stress and it actually doesn't work, you know? And so I picked an entirely different format to just communicate this very, very simple delightful little message that we can change our lot and we can achieve what we're looking for, find what we're looking for if we're willing to help each other. And it's just a nice little reminder because, I'm used to writing these thinky books, with biology and neuroscience and all of that stuff. And I decided to just take a different way of sharing the message that with pictures and quote. And there's all these little delightful things in the book. And one of the things we did was I designed a custom scent. There's a custom scent in the book.
Cool.
The smell of optimism. Yeah, it's got the smell of optimism. And
great.
the book has its own, as I said, it's fully illustrated.
And it has its own song. The Grammy-nominated singer Aloe Black gave me a song that's in the book, and it has its own music video. We partnered with Moo Cards
to make all of these little reminders, these cards that you can either send to someone or hang in your office of the sentiments that we want to share.
Wow.
And so I'm really proud of how multidimensional and sort of dynamic this little book is, and it's really only designed to spread delight.
That's very cool. Sounds like a lot of thought went into that.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, it's I think my publisher didn't expect when I said that I wanted to do this little quote book. I don't think they expected me to go as far
together.
Yeah.
That's great. And now switching gears from talking about your books to a question that I'm always interested in hearing answers on. What's one thing that many people aren't talking about right now that needs to be talked about?
I think the definition of leadership is so misunderstood, and I think people don't talk about their responsibility as leaders, and that responsibility is to take care of others. Leadership is like being a parent. And leaders talk about, I get this question, how do I get the most out of my people? Like, really? That's what you want to go with? Right? That's like saying, how do I get the most out of my children? Right? What an awful question,
Yeah.
As opposed to how do I help my kids grow up and be at their natural best? Right? And that's what leaders should be asking too, which is how do I help my people, grow and be at their natural best? And when you commit yourself to that course of action, you'll find that you make decisions very, very differently than if you're trying to get the most out of your people. Right?
Right.
I know a guy, he owns a business, and it's a clothing business, and he has people who have to snip excess threads off the clothing, right? And they stand there and they snip excess threads. And they ask for chairs, right? And he said no, because he read that people are more productive when they're standing than when they're sitting. Now, there's a person who's trying to get the most out of his people rather than trying to help his people be at their natural best.
That's a great perspective. Wow. Yeah.
Right? And guess what? None of them work there anymore. They all quit, and they all regularly talk smack about him and his company. So he's got a PR problem now because of the way he treated his people.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lesson for all of us. Communication is so huge. He's not listening. He's doing what he thinks is best.
He's trying to get the most out of his people. He's not trying to help his people perform at their natural best. And by the way, nobody wants to,
if he had said, yes, I'll get you chairs and we can still have goals, and I want you guys to figure out different ways you can do it and how you can help each other, and we'll put you on a growth plan and help you do other jobs inside the company and maybe rotate so that you don't get tired. There's a million things he could have done to inspire them and help them be more productive. But rather than that, he chose just not to give them chairs.
That's a lesson for all of us. And now, what's one last piece of advice you want to leave listeners with today there, Simon?
Leadership is a skill like any other. And if you want to get good at that skill, you have to study that skill and learn that skill. You have to practice that skill. You work out on a regular basis, you'll get in shape. But if you stop working out, guess what? You get flabby. And so leadership is the same. We have to keep that muscle strong, and we have to work out, and we have to practice. And so just, you should have a coach, you should have trainers, you should have mentors, people you work out with, you should have leadership buddies, people who are in similar positions that you can talk about and share the challenges, stresses, and strains of the job. And you should treat it like a skill you want to get good at, like anything else.
Beautiful advice there. And last, where can people find your work, Simon?
My books are available in fine bookstores everywhere, and also some not so fine bookstores. So wherever you like to buy books, hopefully they'll have it. We have tons of resources at startwithwhy.com, the same title as the book, WHY. The Why Discovery course is there, and the Moo cards are there. You can also visit moo.com. The usual: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, blah, 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 Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming on the show, Simon.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really appreciate helping me spread my message.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you got something out of these ideas. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.